Hi everyone, hope you're all doing good and are safe at home. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Saturday evening. Today we have with us Suganyalakshmi to share with us insights on creating content as a designer. Suganyalakshmi is a UX content creator and content strategist and is currently working as content manager at Mintra Jabong. I would like to welcome you, Suganya Lakshmi. It's my pleasure to be moderating a session with you, and I'm looking forward to learn a lot.
Yeah, hi, Sudhi. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here as well. Uh, should I start or
Yes, over
we
to
wait?
you.
Yeah.
The stage is
Okay,
yours.
great. So, yeah. So today we're going to talk about designing content for designers. Um, so before we begin, let me just give you a little introduction about myself. Like Sudhi just said, I currently work as a content manager at Mintra, but in addition to that, I also write a lot. I've been working in the content space for about 5 to 6 years. Before that, I worked in marketing. I have an MBA, and I moved from marketing to content because I love to write, and writing's my first love. I've been published in I've had a column for 3 years in LMD Lanka. I've been published in the Sundial Journal, in the Goya Journal, and I have a story coming up this month in Zafigo Asia. So yeah, so today we're going to talk about designing content for designers. You might be wondering why it's important for designers to learn about this designing content. It's a little different from what you probably do on a day-to-day basis, but the what we're really going to talk about today is how we're going to create a personal brand for yourself. A personal brand is really important because it's going to help you create a niche for yourself to stand out, and to get more work that you would love to do and enjoy doing. So yeah, I'm just going to continue. So So the first question when you're trying to design content as a designer or create a personal brand for yourself is to ask yourself the question, who are you? As a designer, you've probably spent a lot of time creating other brands, other brand identities for people. So you generally understand the importance of building a brand and how important it is uh, to create a space for yourself when you're creating a brand identity. So why do we tend to neglect that we as a person are also in a way a brand? Everything we do is a reflection of who we are and what we believe in and our skills and our talents. So it's important for us to showcase that to the world, to package it to the world in the best possible way that we can package it, right? So basically, who are you and what is your superpower? You're basically your superpower. Everything you do is your superpower. Everything that you create, everything that you say, everything that you put out there, it's a reflection of you. So it's really important to sort of collate that, to sort of package that in a way that really speaks and resonate with whoever we want to resonate with. Um, so I just spoke about personal branding, right? So what is personal branding? If you've not heard of this term before, it's basically a definition of who you are and what you do. Creating a personal brand for ourselves not only packages our skills, our talent, where we want to go, who we want to be, it also gives people who come across us who have not met us directly, who are just seeing our work, a little glimpse of our personality and how what we believe in, our values, what we want to carry forth in the world. So it's a personal branding is basically the complete package of who you are and uh, what you want to showcase to the world. So you might be asking yourself, I'm a designer. I might be working in a corporate. I might be a, a freelancer. I might be a student studying to be a designer. Why do I really need a personal brand? So if you look at this image that I'm sharing on the screen, the anatomy of a graphic designer, you know, it's this is a very stereotypical example of what someone who probably is not in the creative space, your clients, this is probably how they see a graphic designer. You could take a look at this. Does it really look like you? Uh, for some of us, maybe. For some of us, maybe not. But you I would hate it if someone stereotyped me in this way, that this is the way I look, this is me. We're all unique people. When I began this presentation, I spoke a little bit about who I am and what I do. So that was me giving you a little glimpse of my personal brand. If I had just, if I had just come on the screen and if I had said, "Hi, I'm Suganya, and I work for a corporate company." A lot of India works for a corporate company. I've done an MBA. A lot of India has done an MBA. I work as a content manager. There are several content managers. Even where I work, we have several content managers. So, what makes me different? What makes me stand out from my peers? Why should you work with me as opposed to someone else? So, these are all important questions that personal branding answers. It's basically what's going to set us apart from the rest of our peers. It's going to sort of shatter these stereotypes that all designers are coffee addicts, all designers wear large headphones, all designers have black rimmed glasses. Probably not. Who comes up with this, right? So it's really important to have a personal brand to help shatter these stereotypes and to create a niche for yourself, who you are, what you do, what is your skill, and it helps clients understand you. Of course, your personal brand will also help clients understand you. Just like there are several different types of designers and several personalities that designers can have, there are several personalities that clients can have as well. So if I was a client and I'm looking for a designer to work with, I would want to work with a designer that sort of resonates with how I view the world. So if I saw your personal brand and I resonated with what you've put out there, I'm more likely to want to work with you because I know that we're probably going to see a design. We're probably going to see eye to eye on a design. I mean, and more than that, it's also when we sort of while we create our personal brand, it's also sort of a personal exercise we're doing to sort of understand who we are and also understand where we want to go and what we want our work to say. Once we realize that, we create even better work because we're putting a little bit of ourselves into our work, because we tend to choose work that we really believe in. We tend to choose work that we are proud of doing, and we tend to choose work not just for the money but because it makes us feel really good. So you would work with clients you really enjoy working with. You would create awesome work. So that these are some of the very few reasons I'm just touching upon on why it's important for you to create a personal brand. So this is something I just pulled out from the internet to sort of explain to you why personal branding is so important. So this is a 2019 survey done by Luca, where a bunch of clients were quizzed on what is the most important thing for they look at when they're working with a designer. 72% of clients picked communication above everything else. Communication above skill, communication about style, communication about price, and communication about flexibility. So communication can be viewed in two ways. Communication can be basic communication, basic courteous communication, where you're telling your client, meeting your deadlines, letting them know if something can't be done, communicating the ideas, getting approvals, etc. But there is a second layer to communication which we often ignore. And that layer to communication is the ability to build a rapport, a positive rapport with whoever we're working with. So that is something that a client finds extremely important. There are everyone watching this presentation right now is probably a designer. So there are so many of you who are designers. So if I had to work on something, how would I pick someone? I would pick the person whose work I like. Obviously, that's important. But I would also pick the person who I can have a rapport with, someone who is open to my ideas, who is able to translate what I want into a design. So these communication skills are not something I'm going to be able to look. I'm not going to be able to find this just by looking at your portfolio or just by looking at your CV. This is something that I will only be able to understand if you have created a personal brand for yourself. So, just a small glimpse again about why creating a personal brand is so important for a designer. So, where do we begin now that we've understood the
Suganya,
importance of, yeah, yeah, hi.
can we take some questions before we move on?
Yeah, sure, we can.
All right. The first question is from Virat Sahani. He's
Yeah,
asking, as a budding designer, how do you
yeah.
choose your niche for personal branding?
As a budding, so we will actually get to this later in the
All
presentation.
right,
It's there.
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Then the next question is from Sahib Anand. He says, after how many years should you start creating a personal brand?
You can start right now, actually. I mean, even if you're a student, it's not too early to create your personal brand. You know, even if you haven't got work, you can create work. You can, I think one thing that I did when I first started out as a writer is nobody wanted to publish me. So I figured out where I wanted to be published. I pitched my ideas to them. I was rejected many, many times, but I still, so I wrote on Medium. I wrote whatever I wanted to do on Medium. And then when I pitched again and they could see my work somewhere, it was easier to
Convince.
to convince them, right? So in that same way, like if you're a student, you would have the work you do in college and you can start using that to build your personal brand. Or if there's a brand, a famous brand you want to work with, you can always just recreate a campaign for them and you could just put that out there. So it's never too early to start, actually. And it's actually great to do it when you're a student, I feel, because you're going to get more work then, right? So
Yeah, exactly. The next question we have is from Sanchit Rana. He's saying, how do you switch your niche in design?
switch your niche, meaning, could you elaborate a little bit if that's possible?
He's not written it, but what I understand is from one design role to another, maybe.
Okay, I mean, I how do so I do touch upon a little bit about how you can switch your niche, because I feel that design or anything that is a little bit involved in tech is always a constantly evolving role.
Process.
Yeah, and it's constantly evolving. What is working right now is not going to work next year. What's working next year won't work the year after. And even the tools we use are constantly getting updated. So if you want to switch, I think it's about, again, networking with the right people, creating a portfolio of where you want to go, upgrading your skills. We do touch upon this a little bit later in the presentation. So
Sure.
if there is more questions after that, I'm happy to take it.
Right. I think we can continue.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, so to continue, so now that we've understood the importance of creating a personal brand, where do we begin? So I have sort of broken this up down into two steps on how to start. So, as Aristotle said, knowing yourself is the beginning of your wisdom. So, step one is to understand your strengths, your weaknesses, and also understand where you want to be. Not necessarily where you are, but where you want to be. Understanding where we want to be helps us to take the steps we need to get there. It could be baby steps, it could take us years, but we're going to get there because we have a clear goal in sight. So, there are two ways that I think is a good way to understand your strengths and weaknesses. One is to view it from an internal lens. So, from the internal lens, we look at how we want to be perceived. As a designer, how do I want other designers to view me? How do I want people in the industry to view me? How do I want my clients to view me? Do I want to do I want to, like, what is my style of design? Um, Sorry, that's a car or something outside. Yeah, so how do I want to be perceived as a designer? So once we have the answer to that question, we can move on to the other question. What do I want others to remember about me? So when I put my work out there, when people see my work, what do I want them to take away from my work? What do I want them to talk about my work? How do I want them to talk about my work with each other? The third question is to understand what are your strengths. Some designers might be good at illustration, some designers might be good at uh, something else. So, to understand what are your strengths, like, are you good at creating logos? Are you good at creating creative campaigns? Uh, where do you see yourself doing all of this? What are your strengths? And it's also, I think, in a way important to understand that your strengths are not set in stone. If there's a place that you want to be and you don't have the strengths to that, you can always convert your strengths to weakness. It's an evolving process. We're constantly evolving, we're constantly growing. I think the most important thing is to set our ego aside and ask questions and keep learning. If you're not good at illustration and you want to be an illustrator, are there courses you can take? Is there someone you can find on LinkedIn who can mentor you? Is there an internship you can do? There are many ways to convert your strengths into weaknesses. So, this is the internal lens in which we can sort of understand ourselves. The other way to understand who we are is to look at it from an external lens. So now we look at the outside world to see how they already perceive us. Again, this is not set in stone. You can always change this. You can always change the way other people look at you uh, by understanding how they look at you. So this is an exercise you can do with your peers. You can ask them, how would you describe me? How would you describe the way I work? So if the descriptions are in line with how you want to be perceived, that's great. If how your peers describe you don't fall in line with how you want to be perceived, then that's something you can work on. What can you do to get where you want to be? So the other way is also to look at the feedback you've received, through the years, months, however long you've been working. Try to find some commonality between all the feedback you've received. Is Are people, everyone you've worked it with, are they constantly complaining about you missing a deadline? Or are they saying that you're really good at doing something? So then you would sort of understand again what your strengths and weaknesses are from an external lens. Then it would also be good to externally view how you can be perceived via your portfolio and your work experience, where you've worked, how long you've worked in places, the kind of places you've worked, the kind of roles you worked, and also uh, how you could be viewed by your portfolio. So, when we're talking about the portfolio, especially when you've created a portfolio because you've worked in a lot of corporate companies, I think it's important to also take a look at your portfolio with a critical eye, because what usually happens is when you're working for someone else, sometimes your portfolio is not a reflection of who you are. Uh, it's a reflection of what your client wants. So if your portfolio is not really reflecting who you are, but it's reflecting what someone else wants, and we've all been there where we do work that it's not our best work because it's what the client wants, right? So when that happens, it's important to take a step back and see how can I improve my portfolio to reflect what I want and how I want to be perceived. Because once we change that, once we change our portfolio, we are able to attract more of the kind of work we actually want to do. At the end of the day, work has to be something you enjoy, especially when you're a creative person. It's important that you are enjoying the kind of work you're doing. It's important that you're proud of the work you're doing. So it's really important to look at your portfolio through a critical eye and see if it's really a reflection of where you want to be and how you want to be perceived. So, this is actually Simon Sinek's golden circle, and I think it's a very interesting way of using clarity, coherence, and commitment to sort of build to build our personal brand, like as a first step. So, what I like to call the why, the reason why you exist, your values, and your purpose, would be clarity. So clarity is, like we said, understanding all of these aspects of who you are, what you want to do, how you want to be perceived, and build a vision for yourself. Find out what your authentic purpose is, because your authentic purpose is going to create the foundation to your personal brand. And it's also going to create the foundation to the kind of work you're going to go after and the kind of work that you're actually going to attract. So it's important to ask this question, why? The next thing is coherence. What makes you special? What are your beliefs and your point of difference? So this coherence is also is like we discussed earlier. We're all designers, all of you are designers. So what makes each of you unique? We're all unique, we all have our unique style of designing. We might be inspired by each other, but at the end of the day, everyone has a unique style. So this unique style is what sets you apart from the rest of your peers. So it's important for us to understand what this unique style is. And also, the other thing that creative people often tend to forget is also client needs. It's important to understand the kind of clients you're working with, and there's a reason that they are asking for these designs. They have to drive their revenue, they have to drive their business. So you need to give them something that actually does that. It can't be something so out there that nobody's going to understand what it is. So coherence is an understanding of both what sets you apart and also what your client wants. And finally, the what, the behaviors, how you deliver your products and services. Basically, this is commitment. So, like we discussed earlier, it's having a clear strategy of where you see yourself, where you want to go. And it's also your commitment to your work, your commitment to building this personal brand. Building a personal brand is an evolving experience. You as a person will keep changing. The kind of work that inspires you will keep changing. The kind of work you want to do will keep changing. So your commitment, your strategy could change, but your commitment doesn't change. Your commitment is always to, you know, have that authentic purpose and do the kind of work that you love doing and that makes you proud. So this is an interesting Venn diagram to sort of view how you can start the stepping stone to building your personal brand. Um, the second step is to define your design niche. So, based on your strengths and your future goals, what aspect of design do you want to concentrate on? If you're really young, you might want to explore. I mean, not if you're really young, you can do it at any point in life actually, but you might you might want to explore different aspects of design, different roles, different industries, different clients. But you can't be a jack of all trades all the time, right? You need to eventually define your design niche based on your strengths, what you're good at, based on your future goals. Figure out which part of design you want to be in, and then differentiate yourself from the other designers in your niche. We just spoke about that. What makes you different? Um, what's the viewpoint with which you view the world, and also what can you give your client? uh, the process is as important as the outcome defines what we are giving back to our clients or the people that we work with. It's not, as a designer, as a creative person, we cannot work in silos. especially if we're trying to make money for our work, it's important to understand that the process is as important as the outcome. So when I'm saying the process is as important as the outcome, what I'm saying is it's also how you're approaching the business. It's understanding the industry that your client belongs in, understanding their previous work, understanding what the goal of what they're asking for is. So all of this is really important, and when you're building your personal brand, it could also be the things that you offer, like is it that you you give them research on as a value add on what they want to do? Do you give them two different versions so they can do an A/B test? So it's up to you, but it's also important to understand that the process is as important as the outcome. It's not just about coming up with the fabulous end product. It's also about what you need to do to go there. So once we've sort of figured out who we are and how we're going to build our brand, I mean, what we need to build our brand, we can start building our brand identity. I'm not going to I'm not a designer, so I'm not going to explain to a group of designers, how to create a logo or your color palette, your typography and fonts, your shapes and imagery. I mean, you guys know all about building a brand identity. I don't have to tell you that. But what I am going to touch upon is the voice and tone and the messages that your brand identity comes up with. So when I'm talking about voice and tone, when you present a portfolio or a website of yourself to someone, they're not going to have a chance to hear your voice. They're not going to have a chance to have a one on one interaction with you. So, what you present to them should really showcase who you are, your voice and tone, how you speak. So, I should be able to get a tiny glimpse of your personality from your voice and tone and from the messages uh, that your brand identity, whether it's a website, whether it's a portfolio, whether it's an interaction with you on social media, I need to I need to get a glimpse of your personality. So it's important to define your own voice and tone. As a person, who are you? What do you talk like? How would you communicate? How do you communicate with your peers? How do you communicate with your clients? When you start asking yourself these questions, it becomes easier to define what your voice and tone is and the kind of message you want to send across in your portfolio. So that's going to reflect on your language. That's going to, I mean, just an example, like you might want to say, hello, I'm so and so, or it could be hi there, or it could be meet Suganya. It's like that simple sentence alone is is someone's first impression of you. So it's important to sort of understand your voice and tone in your messages. It's important to be able to communicate that through your brand identity. And once you're done creating uh, your brand identity, once you're done understanding who you are, what you want, where you want to go, and how you're going to communicate, then it's time to market your brand. So there are several ways you can market your brand. I'm sure all of you have a portfolio. You can also create a personal website with your portfolio, with a little bit about yourself. And I think it's not just about your work, right? Like I said, it should also reflect a little bit about your personality. I should be able to understand. I don't need to know your deepest, darkest secrets or who you're dating or what keeps you up at night. I just need to sort of understand who you are as a person through a personal website. Social media is, of course, a really great way to market yourself and also to network with other people in your industry, whether it's your peers, whether it's your seniors, whether it's clients. Social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, all great places to uh, market yourself and your brand. Creative collaborations. Is there someone else uh, who speaks in the voice and tone that you speak in? Is there some way that you can work together to create great creatives, So working with other people, you sort of cross connect and uh, expand your network. And third party sites, which is super important for freelancers. You can market your brand on third party sites. You can uh, sell your work on third party sites and hopefully make some money out of it. Now, we spoke briefly about how social media is a great way to market your brand. It's also probably the cheapest way to market your brand because you don't have to do much to sort of connect with people who are not in your immediate social circle and grow your brand. So I'm going to just lightly touch upon how to leverage social media to market your brand. If you have any questions on this, we can, you know, explore it further. I'm happy to take any questions after the session is over. But some of the ways that I think would be a good way to explore, to leverage social media to market your brand is to explore groups in your niche. So, LinkedIn, Facebook, I think Instagram too, they have groups, they have networks where people in your industry, people in your the kind of clients you want to work with, your peer groups, they have different groups where you can go and you can join conversations, where you can meet other people who are in the same space as you that would help you uh, expand your network. Networking is always key. Secondly, it's important to keep a consistent brand image. You might have your personal website, you might have an Instagram channel, you might have a Facebook channel, you might have Twitter, you might have a portfolio on Behance. So it's really important that you maintain your personal brand uh, across all your channels, that everything you say everywhere is in line with each other because most of the time someone is going to Google you and they're going to check out all your different channels, and it's going to be pretty confusing if you're a different person on each channel. So just make sure you're consistent with your brand image, consistent with what you're saying, consistent with your beliefs across all your channels on social media. Then engaging with others in your industry, we just spoke about that as well. Networking is super important. um, it helps us to expand our knowledge. It helps us expand our uh, connections in our circle. It helps us get jobs. It helps us meet other people we can creatively collaborate with. So engage with others in your industry. Join the groups, join the conversations, post and post the kind of posts that would create engagement, lead the conversation, uh, and build a build a niche for yourself among the kind of people you want to work with. So, social media is a great way to do that because your clients are on social media, your peers are on social media, your seniors are on social media. So, just engage with everybody. Next, diversify your content. When I'm saying diversify your content, I'm saying don't keep posting the same kind of content every single time. It's important to understand that diversifying your content is not the opposite of keeping a consistent brand image. When we spoke about keeping a consistent brand image earlier, it's about maintaining that voice and tone. It's about maintaining what we believe in and a value system. But when you say diversify our content, sometimes post a video, sometimes post your own work, sometimes post work that inspires you, so that the conversation is always different, that the conversation is always evolving. Then share your knowledge. It's very tempting to, especially when the market is super competitive, to sort of keep what we know to ourselves and not share the knowledge because we we want to be the best at what we do. But it's really important to understand that sharing your knowledge, creating conversations that give out this knowledge, whether it's a post or it's a group discussion, um, it helps build uh, it helps build you up as a leader in your your niche. So share your knowledge, help other people out. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And next, seek mentorship and guidance. one of the nicest things about LinkedIn, I would say, I mean, I'm talking about LinkedIn from personal experience, is that you're able to access people from across the globe who are who have already made it in your field, who are probably at the place that you want to be 5 years from now. So reach out to them, like ask them questions, and more often than not, most people, you'd be surprised, would be very, very willing to help you. So there's no harm in trying, like ask someone if they'd be your mentor, ask them a question that's bothering you. Most of the time, people are nice and they're happy to help. So don't hesitate to seek mentorship and guidance. Um, Now, a couple of other tips for success. We've reached the end of the presentation now, and we can open the floor up for questions. But before that, just some quick few other tips for success is, firstly, be authentic, be real, be who you are, because it's very easy to see through someone who is not being themselves. It's eventually going to catch up with you. So be who you are, be authentic, be true to yourself. And you would also attract the kind of work that you want to do, because you are being who you want to be. And there is no right or wrong way to design. It's a creative process. It's a creative field. What works for one person might not work for someone else. So just be completely authentic and be completely real. Secondly, don't be afraid to ask questions. We all have questions. Even if you've been working for the last 20, 25 years, you would have questions, because technology is always evolving, and the way we do things is constantly changing. So uh, you're not stupid if you're asking questions. Just ask your questions. Someone will be willing to help you out, and it's better than not knowing. Thirdly, know the value of your work and your skill. So I'm gonna speak about this from a content writer, a content writer's perspective, but I'm sure it works for designers as well. And I'm only speaking about it from the writer's perspective because I'm not a designer. But knowing the value of your work and skill stops you from being exploited. There is always someone who is going to be willing to do the job cheaper than you're willing to do it. But it's really important to not budge with that, because take into account the time you're spending on it, the kind of research you're putting behind it, and don't ever underestimate the amount of creativity you're bringing into it. So know the value of your work and skill. Know the value of how much you're willing to get paid. If someone doesn't want to work with you because they think that you're too expensive, that's okay. Let it go, because there will be someone who is going to um, understand your value. So just take into account how much time you're putting in, how much effort you're putting in. Uh, be really be your own biggest cheerleader, and understand that your brain, the creativity you're putting in it's a pretty high skilled thing. Not everyone can do it. So, you know, understand the value and don't undersell yourself. Um, so I think someone had asked the question earlier, like, how do you change your niche as a designer? So I think this would actually really cover it. Don't be afraid of change. It's okay to start from the beginning. It's okay to learn again, because you will be able to get there. And the one of the nice things I think about working in the creative field is that eventually your work starts speaking for itself. It's not so much about um, where you got your degree, or even if you have a degree, it's about the kind of work you can do. So don't be afraid of change. If you want to change your niche, go ahead and change your niche. Start from the beginning, seek mentorship, seek guidance, keep learning, sign up for courses, which just really ties up with my last and final point before I end the session. It's to keep learning and growing. The world is constantly evolving. You are constantly evolving. Your personal brand is constantly evolving, because you're changing, you're growing. So it's okay to keep changing and growing, and it's it's fine. Just keep doing it. Join courses, uh, speak to more people, but just be authentic to yourself, and you'll 99.9% of the time, I guarantee you'll succeed. So I think, yeah, that's about it. Do we have any questions?
Yes, actually, we do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Yeah. Sahib Anand wants to know more about the Simon's Circle.
Simon Sinek's Golden Circle. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So basically, this is a Venn diagram. It's not necessarily for personal branding. It can be for anything, anything really. But I'm sort of looking at it from a personal branding perspective, um, because it sort of helps break down the three ways in which you can understand yourself. So understanding yourself, where you want to be, and how you're going to get there is the key to building your personal brand. So that's the only reason I've used the this golden circle, to understand the why, how, and what. Is there something specific you wanted to ask about the circle?
I think we can take the next question. And
All right.
Sahib, if you have anything specific to ask about this, do let us know.
Sure.
Next question is from Virat Sahani. He's asking how important is understanding the why for personal branding. Can
Okay.
I start my branding even if I'm confused about my why?
um yeah, sorry. Okay, so I'm gonna answer this question in two parts.
Sure.
So one of the reasons that we sort of try to uh, answer the why is because it helps us understand uh, how to build our personal brand, right? Like what's going to differentiate us. But yeah, of course, it's always we're always confused when we have options. We're always confused. So yes, you can start your personal branding even if you're confused about the why. There's no reason not to, but you'd probably be able to better create a brand for yourself if you understand what you want to do and where you want to go. So if you're confused about the why, that's okay. Just set it aside for a while. Maybe look at it from uh, where you see yourself, like in 5 years. Like what kind of designs you want to, what kind of a designer do you want to be, or is there someone you look up to, and is that the kind of person you aspire to become? And maybe based on that, it would help you answer your why. If it doesn't, that's okay. It's completely normal to be confused. So we can just I mean, you can just explore all your whys till you figure out what you want to do.
That's a really nice way, I think, because after all, in life, it's all about exploring and keep.
Exactly, yeah.
Uh, okay, so the next question we have is a bit haywire. So if you want to skip, do let us know. As a beginner, how one will know that he can be a designer and make a career out of it?
As a beginner, could you just repeat that? I'm so sorry.
Sure. As a beginner, how will one know that he can be a designer and make a career out of it?
Are you studying design? If you're studying design, you know you want to be a I mean, you don't necessarily know, but explore it, right? See if it brings you joy. See if you're enjoying it. If you don't enjoy it, keep evolving and growing. So,
Definitely. Sanchit Rana asks, how do you share your personal interest but not make it look so personal?
so there is a fine line between sharing your personal interest and not being so personal. I would say, see, because when you're, especially like the age we're living in, the internet age that we're living in, when we put anything out there, we're evolving as people. And I think in the last couple of months we've seen how things that people have said 10 years ago has come back to sort of haunt haunt them today. So it is important to be a little bit a little careful about whatever you're putting out there. You don't want to get too personal. At the end of the day, this is work. Your personal brand is work. Uh it's not about, you're not talking to a friend. It's about work. So put things which are relevant to work. I think just have the maturity to put the things which are relevant to work. Like don't put like a portfolio about the time like some girl broke your heart. Like don't do that. Don't do that. Put things which reflect you as a designer, which reflect your work. If and like say you're interested in basketball, or you support a football team, that's okay. You're probably not going to change that, but that's going to make me feel like I know you a little better. But don't put anything. I think the key is to just remember that anything that I would not want people to know about 5 years, I would be embarrassed if people found out 5 years from now. Don't put it out there.
That's a good summary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tanu Rani asked, "What is a design niche?"
Okay, Tanu. So a design niche. So I'm not. I don't know all the design niches that could be, but a design niche is a field of design, or a particular industry that you want to concentrate on, that you want to work on. So, for example, as a writer, my niche is fashion and lifestyle. So these are the places that I write best. I mean, I could, if you ask me to write on, say, finance, I could possibly write on it, but it's not my niche. It's not where all my knowledge is. So that's basically what a niche is. I think with design, you might have more niches like illustrator, UX designer, UI designer. Um, but yeah, basically that.
Right, yeah. The next question we have is from Virat Sahani. How do I choose which platform to make my brand on?
You don't have to choose for us. You can have it on all the platforms, right? The so you can be on all the platforms with your personal brand, because that helps you network more, and that helps you reach more people and all of that. But the only thing is to maintain consistency across all the platforms. You can post the same thing because your audience might be different in all the platforms, but be careful about being consistent. Don't say one thing on one platform. Don't say I'm an illustrator on one platform and then on another platform say that I'm something else. Be consistent.
I have one question for myself.
Yeah, sure, Siddhi. Tell me.
That is there any particular form of content that we should follow while posting or while putting it out there?
No, diversify it, but also I think one thing would be maybe be mindful of the audience in that platform. Like, if you're on LinkedIn, you're probably interacting more with clients as opposed
Right.
to if you're on Behance, right? So maybe on LinkedIn, the kind of content I'd be posting would focus more on my knowledge about the industry. What are the extra value adds? Like we spoke about, process is as important as the outcome, right? So that might be something I want to focus on. Just,
Focus on.
yeah, be mindful about who you're talking to and how they're going to respond.
All right. I think that covers all the questions that we have.
All right.
Yeah. And thank you so much, Suganya,
No problem.
for a very insightful session. I got to learn definitely so much by myself. I'm sure the audience had an amazing time too. Any last tips or anything that you would like to let us know?
Um, just, two things that I think I kept saying throughout the presentation was also re to be authentic, to be true to yourself, because I think that we are all as people very unique and different from each other. So being authentic and true to yourself is really what's going to differentiate you from the rest of the designers. And keep learning. Don't be afraid to say you don't know, and don't be afraid to evolve and grow.
I just had a last question on that note.
Yeah, sure.
How do we become comfortable in being our real self? Because there's a very there are two worlds: the real world and the social media world. So how do we actually put out the real us on social media?
So I think it's I think it's important to understand that vulnerability is is actually a gift. That it's when just try it once, and when you do, you'll realize that you connect more with people when they're being themselves. So it's scary. It's really scary to put your real self out there. But like I said, like we're talking about this in a professional context as well, right? Like don't give out like too much about yourself, but
Right.
it's okay to. It's it's tough. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's something that maybe take like little steps towards doing every single time.
Right. I think we have one more last question that is
Sure.
from Tushar.
Yeah.
He's saying that what type of content can I make as a designer to make my personal brand?
I don't think I can answer that for you, Tushar, because I don't know uh, what you work on. So I actually had a last slide which has my details. Like if you guys want to take it down and you want to, if you think of like other questions later, feel free to
Definitely.
shoot me a mail or um, send me a message on LinkedIn and I'll try to help you. If you want me to take a look at if you're building a website and you want some honest feedback, I'm not a designer. I can't tell you if your color palette is great, but I can try to help you out if I can. So I have the last slide. You can take down these details and shoot me an email if you want.
So that I think a lot of people will be reaching out to you.
No
We
problem.
had a lot of questions today. I think on this note, I would like to end this today's session. And thank you so much, Suganya, again, once again. It was
Thank you all for coming. This is it's it's nice that people wanted to learn on a Saturday night. So thank you all for coming. It was
right.
nice to
I
be
would
here.
like to also thank the audience to be with us throughout, and hope all your queries got solved. And you, as Suganya said, that you can reach out to her anytime. We'll also be linking her details in the description below. So yes, see you all until next time.
All
Have
right.
a happy weekend, everyone.